Living in the past is ill-advised. You gotta look forward, you gotta move forward. There's better things on the horizon. When it comes to cars though, we can buck that trend because cars are actually really special. Sometimes brands just can't get back what they lost, and Audi is kind of in that frame of mind right now. When you take a look at the B10, A5, and Q5, they themselves know they gotta get back to the basics. They gotta get back to what they did very well. The A5 Sportback has always been a personal favorite of mine, and I personally think that for a car now under $40,000, might be the best luxury sedan or Sportback you can buy right now. So in today's video, we're going to check out how the Audi A5 has aged here for the B9.5 generation. We're going to check out the interior, the exterior, take it out for a test drive, and see why Audi needs to return to this formula very quickly, or they're going to lose a lot of ground to BMW and Mercedes-Benz. And before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Infiniti of Norwood in Norwood, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the Audi A5 Sportback. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Infiniti inventory. The model we have today is the Premium Plus. This was the middle trim in the lineup, much like we see with the B10 now, so Premium, Premium Plus, and Prestige. With the A5 though, this car was born to be an alternative to a crossover. Back in the late 2010s, there was this big movement to save the sedan market and giving you a sportback rear fascia and a hatchback design to give you that practicality, even though it was still going to be a bit more cramped for the interior. As a result though, Audi did this job very well by giving you a car that did look really classy and upscale for its price point, because for the Premium Plus you are spending somewhere around $50,000 to $60,000, and here we are thanks to depreciation at around 40 grand, and you have a car that I think still looks great today a couple of years later. Now when you take a look at the exterior for this car, you don't have the black optic package, which is perfectly fine. This isn't the S5, so we can live with the brushed aluminum accents for our model today. Up front you are going to have full LED headlights here with LED turn signal indicators. Love that style, love that design. And then for me, it's that honeycomb mesh grille. Now for Audi purists and for Audi loyalists, I think some people might not have liked that honeycomb mesh grille making its way on the A5 because this was always a design element for the S5. But for the B9.5, A4, and A5, this car was going to have a striking look and a striking presence. You have the chrome accents outlining that grille, which I'm not a huge fan of chrome, but does look pretty good here with the black body color that we have here for our model. Also, when you take a look at the lower portion of the front bumper, you're going to have more of that brushed aluminum accent look here. No fog lights, but that's okay here because those LED headlights are quite bright at night. And what I like too with the A5 is that this got a sportier appearance, got an S5-like appearance compared to the A4. So you got something that looked a bit more aggressive and engaging. And then as you made your way over to the side profile, it was this sloping roofline, this C-pillar design that set this car apart and defined the A5 Sportback for the B9 and B9.5. There was a distinct difference when you take a look at the final third of this model compared to the A4. And that right there is why so many buyers chose the A5, because it was going to be a bit more flexible and practical when it came to that cargo area. What I also like too is that it made this car look a bit sleeker and sportier as well. There was a sportier nature to this car right from the get-go, and Audi doubled down on that with the S5 and then the RS5 Sportback as well. And then we can't forget about the smaller details here for the Audi A5 we have today, because some of you might be looking at buying this car. We have the 19-inch alloy wheels, which might be the perfect size here for the A5. It is tuned to be softer and for a leisure driving experience, and the 19s pairs up very well with that. Road noise shouldn't be too much of a problem, neither should the ride quality either. Then you're also going to have body color match side mirror caps to go along with LED turn signal indicators, and then obviously for a car in this class, you will have blind spot detection for added safety. And then further tying everything together here for the silhouette of the A5 we have today is the chrome accents or brushed aluminum accents that we have here outlining the windows. Again, a nice two-tone look for this car, very classy. And lastly, for the rear fascia, you have full LED taillights here with a sequential turn signal design Love to see that. We unfortunately don't have a lot of that here in the US thanks to regulations, but it's a nice classy look. It's a way to integrate that into the A5 Sportback and give you more of a Euro appearance to the A5. Now you're also going to have the brushed aluminum accents once again here for your rear diffuser and dual exhaust outlets, which look really nice and very prominent on this car. And then there's also a subtle deck lid spoiler, reminding you that once again, with the Sportback, it is supposed to be a bit more aggressive in design. Then spending some time inside the Audi A5 Sportback for the B9.5 generation, the ergonomics is aging like fine wine. In front of you is Audi's virtual cockpit and Audi's MMI user interface in all its glory. The resolution, quality, graphics, I also think the responsiveness is pretty good here. With that digital gauge cluster, it's intuitive. You can customize the layout. You can also show those map displays as well, which you can't do in the B10A5. So more customizability, feels more futuristic. That infotainment system is not going to be confusing. It's not going to be cluttered. It feels natural using the technology here. And even though this is only a couple of years old, it still looks brand new. It still looks cutting edge. And that's why this generation, I think, is aging really, really well. But even better, you have physical buttons and dials on the dashboard here for your dual zone climate control up front, your AC, front rear defrosters, fan speed, fan direction, your heated and ventilated leather trim seats for this model. Beneath that will be another row of buttons for your drive mode selector, your auto start stop, your traction control on and off button, also your park assist features, and lastly is the button that turns off that infotainment system if you don't want to be distracted. Then for the center console, yes, there is some gloss black trim here, which might not age well after about 5 to 10 years, but it is outlined by wood grain trim on the dashboard and center console, reminding you this is a sophisticated and luxury sportback here between 50 and 60 grand. Now you're also going to have a traditional gear shifter along with a dial for the volume and tuning. It is so nice, and better yet, the dashboard and center console wrap around you, giving you a fighter jet-like cockpit. Then conveniently stored for the center storage compartment, you will have a wireless phone charging pad here, so you can have your phone out of sight and out of mind. Above will be that sunroof that brings in some natural light to the interior. And then I can't forget about the comfort for the A5 Sportback. With these leather trim seats, they've got a good amount of bolstering, a lot of support here, and the cushioning is really nice. In some ways, I get a sense that the A5 Sportback is supposed to be tuned to be somewhat aggressive and sporty, even though the A5's driving dynamics are a bit more on the conservative side. You really wouldn't look at this as being an Alfa Romeo Giulia or BMW 330i competitor when it comes to its agility and athleticism, but the seats tell a different story here. Then as you take a quick look for the second row, yes, it's not going to be the size of an Audi Q5, but the interior comfort is there. The support is there, and you will have climate control for the second row as well. No heated outboard seats on this model, but still passengers in the second row will be nice and warm. And yeah, maybe tall passengers will be hitting their head on the headliner, but remember, this is a Sportback and not a crossover. And then returning to the rear fascia to take a look at the cargo area for the Audi A5 Sportback. One of the key features here is that you are going to have a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 22 cubic feet of room, which Mercedes-Benz didn't offer a rival to the B9.5. Also, you had the BMW 4 Series Grand Coupe, but the styling definitely is out there for sure. That is an acquired taste. So in some ways, the A5 Sportback saved the sedan segment for Audi, and we're seeing that now with the B10. But if you're someone looking for a sedan, you don't want a crossover, you don't want to buy an Audi Q3, this is a great alternative and probably more fun alternative at that. And then the real gem here with the B9.5 Audi A4 and A5 is this 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which isn't as known as the B48 in the BMW 330i and 430, but this engine is very competent and capable and also competitive in this class, producing 261 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. Also not as known is that you did the 40 TFSI, which gave you 201 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque, but that was very unpopular for a lack of a better term, not many people chose the 480 TFSI for a good reason. If you're spending $50,000 or $60,000, you want the best performance here. And I personally think you didn't necessarily have to go with the S5 Sportback if you didn't want to. If you weren't an enthusiast and you were just looking for a quick and fun daily driver, this 2-liter turbo was more than enough. Also with a 7-speed dual clutch. Now, some people, like myself, I do prefer the ZF 8-speed out of the BMW 330i and Alfa Romeo Giulia. But this 7-speed dual clutch does shift very smoothly, and it's not as aggressive as what you are going to find out of some other transmissions, especially older transmissions that you had in previous generations. With the B9 and B9.5, you received a car that was very refined, almost too refined. Now, we look at the B10 in a completely different light. In some ways, look at the B10 A5 and S5 as being more of a grand tour, whereas this is a luxury car. This is a luxury sportback sedan, and you feel that. You feel every essence and every fiber of that being behind the wheel of the B9.5. Unlike the BMW 330i, Genesis G70, and Alfa Romeo Giulia, where this car shines isn't necessarily with its steering input or athletic nature. It's the fact that in some ways this car is a great all-arounder, and it can't be quantified on paper or necessarily in words. You have to drive this car to fully understand what I'm saying here, because it's not going to be the firmest when it comes to the suspension. It is not going to be the most aggressive with the steering input and handling, and yet it's all around competent. When you're in the corners, when you're on a winding back road, there's no body roll here, a lot of rigidity, and with the steering input, sure, it's not heavily weighted. It's not going to give you that firm feeling like you have with a BMW 330i or BMW 430i. But its fluid nature gives you a lot of confidence in the corners, even for a car not wearing the S5 badge. In some ways, this is a gentleman's luxury sedan, a grown-up person's luxury sedan, where you're not buying this for its design to get attention. You're not buying this for the quick acceleration. You're buying it for the luxury. You're buying for the technology. You're buying for the fact that this car does feel so well refined. And in some ways, and I'm going to be going way too far with this, it's almost a modern interpretation of a BMW E39. Yes, I went there, because this really isn't a 3 Series. This isn't like an E46, E36. This also really isn't a lot like the earlier Audis, like the B5 and B6 A4. This was something very, very different. Thanks to its longer design with that sportback rear fascia, this feels more substantial. There's more substance to this car. And why I think that even though it was built on the exact same platform, shared the same interior design, this felt so different than the A4. There was just something different about this car. In dynamic mode on these winding back roads, it feels so planted, it feels so much in its element, that this car was crafted and engineered to be driven on the Autobahn, to be driven in the Swiss Alps. And that translated to the American market. Now, Car and Driver did rank the BMW 330i higher than the A5. In fact, the 330i took first and the A5 took second, and I see exactly where Car and Driver is coming from. Because, again, it comes back to the performance, it comes back to the dynamics of the driving experience, and the A5 is tuned more for luxury. In fact, I think from a dynamics perspective, from a sporty experience perspective, this actually is a bit lower on the totem pole. This isn't up there with the Giulia or even the Genesis G70. But because of its luxurious nature, because it's so comfortable and so compliant, you can't help but appreciate what this Sportback was offering a few years ago and what it's still offering today on the used market. Now, one point of criticism I do have out of the Audi A5, because this has kind of been a love fest here with this car, is that with the Turbo 4, and this is why I like the V6 more, is that when you get off throttle, when you're cruising at around 30 miles an hour, the RPMs drop substantially. Like, it's not cruising at 2,000 RPM. We're at like 1,500 or below that, and it really bogs down. I have to get deep into the throttle to get that RPM back up. And yeah, you get that low-end torque, but the bogging down sensation is something I really don't like here. I don't experience that out of the BMW 330i or other cars in this class. See, look at that. Right around 27 miles per hour, we got down to 1,000 RPM. Now, it's probably for fuel savings, but I don't like that, and I've noticed that a few times with Volkswagen Audi products, but that is so minor, a lot of you might be overlooking that. But coming back to this generation one more time, because it has been a few years, this is everything the B10 isn't. That the successor is worse than the predecessor. That the student is not as smart as the teacher. Because with the B10, it's a completely different car. We talked about that with the B10 review, why I wanted to come back to the B9.5 for those of you who are watching both videos. That the B10 is something very different. It's a Grand Tour. It's very Grand Tour-like. The B9.5 isn't. It really, truly isn't. This is a luxury sedan, like I said before, and because of that, I love this car more. I love this car a lot more, because it's not pretending to be something it isn't. And especially with the A5, this is a great all-arounder. It's a jack of all trades, a master of none, but it's good enough to be a great car even a few years after its production run. And if you're someone looking at buying one of these at around $40,000, I say check one out at least, because I think you're going to like it. Now, like I said before, there are rivals out there that give you better handling, better performance, better driving dynamics. But if you're looking for a luxury car that also provides the performance and competent handling, look no further than the A5. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this blast from the past for the B9.5 Audi A5 Sportback. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.